Yo, and we are live on Rumble, Twitch, and X, man. Just setting up the YouTube. About to go live on there. My man Vlasting is already in the chat, man. I love it. Yo, man, and we are live, man. This is Set with Set and Comedian. I'm back with another one for y'all, bro. Today we got a good line up, man. It's gonna be great. Man, we got JD, boy, we got RFK, Larry Elder, man. We got Charlie Kirk, bro, Dan Bongino, Vivek with RFK on there. Oh man, y'all gonna love me for this one. Y'all gonna love me. We got, bro, NY COVID czar over here getting admitted for forcing vaccines on people. We're going in today, guys. We're going in. Let's get right into it.
Thank you. I'm very psyched to be here. I was coming in backstage. This is our 11th city we've been in. So you actually do drink Mountain Dew, you're not joking. Cans at the TV, feeling like a freak. It's most people in this country. And there's no greater blessing than knowing that.
First, we got our boy Vance.
So on that note of totally non-political hope, I want to introduce Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, running with Donald Trump. So you actually do drink Mountain Dew, you're not joking.
Diet Mountain Dew, yeah. Yeah, it's my favorite drink. You need a lot of caffeine on the campaign trail. Though it's interesting, it's become a bit of a thing because I probably had like one Diet Mountain Dew a week before I started running for vice president. And then I started talking about it, and then people always brought me Diet Mountain Dews, so now I drink like 3 of them a week. It's one of many ways in which my health has gotten much worse. But I will say,
you're not endorsing it from a medical standpoint, is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. But I will say, Tucker, it's awesome to be here, not just because I've been looking forward to this, but 2 hours ago, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to have to call Tucker and cancel. I'm not going to be able to come. And the reason is because we have our kids with us, and I took my boys on the campaign trail. We did a bunch of events all over Pennsylvania, which is a great state, and it's great to be here. And we go to Hershey Park, right, which is just across the street. Hershey Park's great. And my son says, my 7-year-old says, if I go on a roller coaster with you, you have to go on this spinny ride with me. And so legitimately, it's one of these things where it's not just spinning around, but then the thing that you're sitting in is also spinning around. So it's like spinning within spinning. And legitimately, 3.5 seconds in, I think to myself, I'm going to throw up all over this ride. And
Hey, you're running for national office. I don't even know what I do for a living at this point. But
neither do I.
So it's always hard asking someone who's running for office, do you think you're going to win? Where are we? But I would say, and you explained this so well in a conversation we had recently, the polls really are designed to deceive many of the public polls. Probably not all, but many. And the campaigns, not just yours, but the Democrat Party's campaign, do have access to the most accurate polls. So, being as honest as you can be, where are we?
Where we are is we're going to win. And I feel 100% confident about that. If you go back in time 4 years, there was a poll in the run-up to the 2020 election, maybe the 2016 election actually, that had Donald Trump losing Wisconsin by 17 points, okay? And of course in 2016 he won the state of Wisconsin. And what you realize is the purpose of these polls is very often subversion. They're trying to depress you, so they put out a poll in Wisconsin that says Donald Trump is going to lose by 17 points, even though that's an election he eventually went on to win.
It's like they're trying to discourage certain voters from voting. It's like, well, your state's going in this direction anyway, so it's damn near like you're wasting your vote if you try to put it in. They're trying to give you that perception of, oh, well, your state's going for Kamala anyway, so what's the point of you voting? And come on now. They lying to y'all about some of these polls.
And I think that there's a lot of that happening right now, though I will say even with
Sneaky,
the
but
idea that the
effective.
polls are fundamentally biased, I mean, we have internal polls that we pay a lot more money for because this is a very nerdy point, but you have to reach the right people to actually get an accurate poll. And because most Trump supporters, like if you called my family members and said, hey, I'm from such and such research, are you going to vote for Donald Trump? They would say F you and hang up the phone, right? So because of that, it's very hard to poll actual Donald Trump supporters, but you can if you're willing to actually go out and seek those people and do the right things. And look, the internal polls are great. I think that we have to work our rear ends off over the next 45 days. And, there's something really interesting about this election, Tucker, which is that if you sort of take the people who voted in 2020 versus the people who voted for Biden in 2020, the people who voted for Trump in 2020, we're probably about even there. Like I'd sort of give it a 50-50 chance, but there are a lot of marginal voters, meaning people who don't always show up to the polls. And if they show up, they're like 70-30 for Donald Trump. So it's basically, the name of the game is you can't get depressed and give up on your country. You have to get out there and vote because
the name of the game is, well, what they're trying to get you to be is discouraged. They want you to be discouraged in your state, thinking that, well, my vote's not going to matter because my state just going towards Kamala. When really they're lying to you. It's a little bit more even than you think. Some of y'all are still battleground states, but if you read these polls, even Trump supporters read some of these polls and be like, damn, man, we losing over here. But that's not the case. To be honest with you, some of these states are a lot closer, or Trump is more far along than they'd like you to believe. So yeah, the name of the game is, well, lie to you so you feel discouraged.
Because if you do, we're going to win. So get out there and vote, and we'll win. And
bro, it's like being on a football team or some type of sports team, and before you even show up to the game, everybody's telling you gonna lose. Man, newspaper telling you that your team gonna lose. Coach even telling you that, I ain't gonna lie, they pretty good. We might lose. We gonna try our best. What you gonna think?
Look, the story of basically the last 30 years, in my view, is that our leadership has turned the American people into paupers in their own country, right? You're not going to own anything. No way you're going to own a house because the leadership has made it way too expensive to buy a house, and plus interest rates are too high. You're not going to have real public safety in your communities because we're going to import 25 million people. We're going to overstress the legal system. We're going to overstress the police system. You're not actually going to have a decent job because we want to ship way too many middle-class jobs off to China, off to Mexico. And so the American people, I think, they're fed up with it. They're saying, we don't give a shit what you think about us. We're going to vote for our own interests, and we're going to vote to save our country. But the thing that is really meaningful, and if I worry about anything, it's that we're going to get lazy and we're going to rest on our laurels, and we're not going to get out there and actually pound the pavement and vote. There are way too many people who know that the country is broken, who know that Kamala Harris would make a terrible president, but they have to actually get out there and do the thing that all of us have to do, which is vote. It's very simple.
We did an interview a couple of weeks ago with a woman called Casey Means. She's a Stanford-educated surgeon and really one of the most remarkable thinking about ever since is the co-founder of a healthcare technology.
I got you.
Correct.
So just to put it in one sentence, you got Bobby Kennedy.
Bro, we're about to go through all of Tucker's most banger guests this stream, bro. We're about to have some fun tonight, guys. Let's go. And some crazy clips I got for y'all.
And they got Dick Cheney and his horrible daughter.
A hell of a trade, by the way.
But make sure to like the video. Let's get more people in on the conversation, man. Double tap the screen or go ahead and get those 3 dots up in there in the corner, man. Let's go. And if you want to super chat in, just $1 and up. Any question, comment, or joke. Appreciate you.
Take that trade every day and twice on Sunday.
And I didn't mean to, I can't remember her name, so I'm going to go with horrible daughter. I think it's fair. How would you describe that realignment? Like, what is that?
Well, I think there are a couple things going on. So first of all, if you spend any time in professional Washington, which I've spent a couple years there, you realize that one of the things that gives a lot of people meaning is like playing a chess game with the lives of other people's children, right? And of course, if you think like that, you're kind of a sicko and you shouldn't be anywhere near power. But Washington is full of people who really like to go out and play strategic games with the lives of other people's children. And there's probably nobody who better represents that, of course, than Liz and Dick Cheney, who their entire politics for the past 30 years has been using American power to inflame tensions in the world, to draw the United States deeper and deeper into foreign conflicts, which either shouldn't exist at all, or certainly the United States shouldn't have any business in. And I think that I think so that's one thing that's going on, is if you don't think the United States should get involved in every stupid war in the world, then you're a Republican. And if you think the United States should send billions of dollars and tons of innocent Americans to die in some...
Yeah, under the mantra of, we can't let Putin take Ukraine. We can't let it happen. I mean, at the risk of what? At the risk of what? What? American lives, tax dollars? Like, come on now. Like, you say it, but at the risk of what?
Foreign country, then you're going to be a Democrat. And that's kind of crazy, right? Because it was sort of exactly the opposite probably 40, 50 years ago. But then there are two other big issues. The three things that really matter. One is foreign policy. Our side, I think, is rational and restrained. We don't want to fight every ridiculous war, and we're like worried about getting involved in World War III because we should be, because we have nuclear weapons now, and you have to be cautious about that stuff. The second big issue is, in my view, over immigration. Right? If you sort of look at the Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney view, their basic argument is, let's flood the United States with millions upon millions of foreign laborers because that's good for business. And there are those of us who are saying, well, is it actually good for social cohesion? Isn't it good for workers? Ooh. Hell no, so we're not going to accept that.
Oh, that was smart. That was smart. He's like, okay, so for these companies that are trying to over here putting in immigrants, then trying to lie to y'all saying that, oh, it's helping the economy. I'm like, no, it destroys social cohesion. So everybody socially is all effed up. It does take away jobs from Americans, U.S. citizens. So it's kind of like, man, it's damn near like fudging the unemployment rate. It's almost like that. It's like, yeah, so if we account for actual U.S. citizens that have jobs, then it'd be a lot lower because, well, we're giving some of these jobs to immigrants just to make them citizens. So in a way, aren't we kind of finessing the actual employment rate of U.S. citizens? In my opinion, we are.
The third thing, and the third thing that I think really divides the parties, and it's like me, Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump, we're sort of all on the same page on this, is, do you think that the United States should ship its entire industrial base to foreign countries, some of which hate us? And if you think that's insane, like I do, then you're going to vote for Donald Trump. And if you think it's a great idea to ship our industrial base overseas, you're welcome in the party of Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney. And that's basically it. And those three issues, Tucker, have divided people, I think have divided the entire country, but actually only the leadership class. Because I actually think that like 70% of Americans agree with our viewpoint on these issues. I just think that the leadership of this country has gotten so deranged that they convince themselves that...
So people don't even know on the other side what they're really like, standing on. Like, if you ask any Trump, any Kamala supporter, and they'll sit here and tell us straight to our face that, oh, he's not talking policies, but he's talking policies. And, all they're voting on is a one-issue policy. They're one-issue voters, but we got people who's actually caring about America, actually trying to get things all right over here. But, abortion, man, what else, man? Because really, it's just like they're just riding on abortion and racial politics. Project 2025, like, bro, they're running on what? Race and lies.
There's a great American majority for fighting a ton of wars, importing a ton of illegal aliens, and shipping all the jobs overseas, and I just don't think there is.
I would say it's higher than 70% consensus, and you know that because the advocates of the positions you just described will never admit that they're advocating for them. No one will ever say, yeah, we just brought in.
Yeah, and people don't even know what Trump and Vance is really standing on to be like, to even not vote for them. I'm like, dog, if you actually hear what they're saying, You would agree. You would agree that, yeah, bro, it was not a good idea to go keep make these corporations flee overseas. Let's try to bring them back. Let's work on policies that bring these corporations back instead of making it harder for them to do business. And Kamala, well, she ran the state that was driving out all types of businesses that made it hard for them to do business. So why are we trusting her to not do that with the United States? Like, come on, think about it. She did it with California. She can do it with the entire United States.
Tens of millions of illegal aliens, they lie about the fact they did it. So clearly there's no constituency for that.
No, that's exactly right. And, this has been a big issue with some of the microscope that's been put on communities that have accepted a large number of Haitian migrants in the past couple of years. So in Springfield, Ohio, about 20,000. There's a community in Pennsylvania that's, I think, it's accepted about 2,500 in a town of about 4,000 people.
Damn.
So there are people who say that this is fundamentally necessary because unless you import all of these people, that there aren't going to be any jobs. And I actually think that sort of gets it exactly upside down. The reason why people left these communities is because our leadership shipped all of their jobs to Mexico and China and other countries. So if you want to fix the problem, bring economic prosperity back to our country. Don't bring 2,500 or 25,000 foreign laborers into small town America.
And then gaslight us and say, oh, they're here to fix the economy. I'm like, bro, the American people can do that on our own. We don't need immigrants from another country to do that. And anybody who tells you that, well, they're low-key anti-American. They most likely either may be of immigrant descent and just hate Americans for some reason. Like, there was somebody on last stream now trying to argue that, oh, migrants are 3 times less likely to commit more crime. And, well, if you want to compare 350 million people crime statistics to 37. I mean, look, 350 million to 37 million. And we want to compare crime statistics on those uneven, test samples. Well, I would say the sample groups. Like, come on now.
Amen. But it also raises I think, an even deeper philosophical question, which is, who are you serving? Who's your loyalty to? I don't care how screwed up and fentanyl-ridden and post-industrial your little town is. The people who live there are American citizens and they own the government. And so the people in charge have to care about them, but they don't at all. They care about their donors who think that their businesses will benefit from importing an entirely new class of workers. But aren't our leaders required to care about the current occupants of those towns?
To be honest, and as people, bro, we need to take more accountability for what these businesses do. We honestly shouldn't even do business with any company that turns their back on the U.S. citizens to invite in a whole bunch of migrants. Bro, that company in Springfield damn near should be boycotted just on the fact that you turn your back on American citizens, you put in all these immigrants, and then you want to go gaslight the people of your city, which are U.S. citizens. I mean, that deserves a boycott, if not at least canceled.
I would think so. Well, here's one way I'd put it is, and I picked this up, this is actually when we became friends initially, right, is we were at some massive bankers conference and I had just written Hillbilly Elegy.
I feel dirty thinking about it, yeah.
And I realized that what I had done in Hillbilly Elegy was write a very personal story about my grandmother and my mom and my sister, and there's sort of triumph and there's trial, and my mom struggled with addiction and then she got clean and my grandmother raised me, and it was very much a personal story. And what I realized at that conference and at others like it is that a lot of our leaders liked the book not because they really sort of sympathized with the story, but because it gave them an opportunity. They'd pick one paragraph out and say, oh, well, this thing shows that these middle American, working class people are bad, or they're racist, or they're not worth focusing our attention on, or we shouldn't save their jobs, or whatever. They use as an excuse to ignore the citizens of their own country. And I started to feel kind of dirty about participating in this way that our leaders used my book to try to look down on their fellow citizens rather than maybe learn something about their fellow citizens and recommit them to making their lives better. And that fundamental breakdown you see in our politics all the time, Tucker, because look, there is nothing that pisses off America's leadership class, there's nothing that angers Kamala Harris more than when a working class person in the heartland of this country complains about what a bad job she's doing. And you know, when you think about this charge that our leaders constantly make, they'll say, well, you don't want 20,000 low-wage migrants showing up in your town. You don't want to be evicted from your home to make way for 4 Haitian families who, by the way, are violating zoning laws to live in this house. You're a racist. That's what they'll say.
Yep.
Now think about.
Yep, if you complain about the crime statistic about these immigrants, they'll say, well, immigrants are 3 times less likely to commit crime. And you know, it's so crazy. You know, I actually looked into that study. I actually did a very deep dive into the study. I wanted to see how they did their numbers, see if they did their t-tests correctly, and they didn't. They didn't. So if anybody y'all know about statistics, when you compare 2 groups for a statistical measure, you have to make sure that the sample sizes of the groups are even. One side can't be 37 million and the other side is like, well, 300 million. You can't compare those sample size and not expect to come out with a biased result. Like, and that is pretty much what that test was done on. No matter where you go. They even did a test for Texas where they said, well, in Texas, immigrants are 3 times less likely to commit crime. Okay, so we're comparing 30 million Texans to 5.1 million immigrants. So if I just had, I don't know, a box of pens, right? And we just go ahead and we just drop about, I don't know, 30 million blue pens for U.S. citizens and a bunch of black pens for the immigrants. If I ruffle my hands around there and every time I pull out a pen, that's a criminal. What are the odds that I'm most likely going to pick out of that 30, million blue pens of U.S. citizens? Pretty much. You see how that statistic can be skewed?
About this, what they're really doing is saying you are not allowed to speak up about our leadership screwing up. And when you realize this is the game that they play, I mean, look, you and I agree with this. I think we should genuinely endeavor to look at every human being as a child of God, whether they're black, white, brown, or anything else. I think that is an absolutely good principle. But I think that when our leaders call working class citizens who have almost no power in America in 2024, when they call them racist, it's not because they're trying to call them to some higher meaning. They're not trying to convince them to be more compassionate to their fellow man. They're trying to silence them and shut them up. And when you realize that our leadership is willing to take the compassion, like what's best in us, that we love our fellow man and we love our fellow Americans.
Oh yeah, make sure to like the video, guys. Chat, that comparison makes sense to you on how they kind of lie about the immigrants committing less crime statistics. Did that make sense? Let me know and make sure to like the video, guys. Appreciate y'all.
And use it as a weapon to silence people. You realize that Kamala Harris and everybody like her, it is a disgusting game that they play, and we have to reject it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, let me say it again, I think it's evil. It's evil to leverage someone's decency against him.
Yes.
It's the lowest possible thing you could do. But I have to ask, and I don't really answer this question, but you've spent time on both sides.
All right, then. Some of y'all ain't take statistics then and don't know what a t-test is and don't know the rules of a t-test if you're going to take these statistics. That's why I know you ain't take a statistic class. See? Ain't that crazy, guys? I literally explained to y'all what it was. And you still couldn't even because you know why? It proved that Trump is right. It proved that the left will lie to you and create studies that are skewed. You don't want to accept that truth, though. Just told you that you can't compare 2 uneven sample tests. What any statistic class would tell you. I mean, I'm talking about base level. But okay.
Growing up in where you did in Ohio, going to the Marine Corps, and then, going to Yale and all that.
Ohio.
Go Ohio. It's more than just like getting people to shut up so they can loot the country, which is clearly part of it. But there's a loathing, there's a hatred there.
Oh, yes.
And I don't understand where that comes from. Why would you hate people who live in communities that your friends flooded with fentanyl? Like, why would you be mad at them? They're the ones whose life expectancy is going down. What did they do wrong? If there was ever a group of victims, it's rural Americans. So why would you hate them? That doesn't make sense to me, but they do. Why?
So I don't know that I have a perfect answer to this, but I think that rural America and the problems of rural America just show how much their entire world.
I ain't gonna lie, people be trying to disrespect rural America like they're just a bunch of dumb hillbillies and all that good stuff. It's like, it's wildly disrespectful. Like, there are some actually great scholars that came out of these country places, but you all think they're just hillbillies, like, you know, J.D. Vance. Ain't that wild? And it's kind of crazy how people will believe skewed research to, well, make them seem like their own fellow U.S. citizen is worse than an immigrant. Is wild.
View is broken, and so it sort of reflects back at them their own failure and their own lack of concern for their fellow citizens, right? So it's like one thing to say, well, we're going to ship all the jobs to China and we'll get a bunch of, you know, cheap plastic toys in exchange, or, oh, we're going to invade Iraq and, you know, yeah, it's going to be a total disaster and we'll kill a lot of innocent people, but like we don't really have to think about it after the war is over. Or, yeah, you know, we'll let 20,000 Haitians into this small town, but, you know, the employers will be happy because they'll get some cheap labor and then we won't have to think about it. But when the rural people or the small town people, the working class people start complaining about it, then you have to actually confront whether these things that you have done have actually made people's lives better. And I think that you sort of, you know, confronted with that, right? So you and I have a mutual friend, I won't use his name, where, you know, he was a huge advocate of the war in Iraq. And by the way, I was 18 years old, but I also was an advocate of the war in Iraq. I had, in fact, enlisted in the Marine Corps in April of 2003. We invaded in March of 2003. Semper Fi to all the Marines out there. But so, but like, okay, the war turned into a total disaster. A lot of young Americans got killed. A lot of innocent people got killed. And that should cause a thinking person to evaluate, well, what were the processes in my brain that led me to think that this was a good idea, and how can I change so that I don't get it wrong the next time? And I think we have a lot of friends who got it wrong, but they can't have that conversation with themselves because it's too morally challenging. Like they wouldn't be able to look themselves in the mirror if they realized, oh, I did this thing that led to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of innocent people losing their lives. And so you could either do that thing, you could either reevaluate and say, maybe I screwed up, maybe I was wrong, maybe I should rethink how I understand the world. Like maybe Donald Trump isn't a threat to democracy, maybe the person who's a threat to democracy is Kamala Harris, who is running for president without a single vote. But
I mean, the craziest thing that nobody catches about Kamala Harris is the whole forcing all of America to, you know, have abortion. Like, bro, there's some, when Trump said leave it to the states, that's the most American Democratic thing you could have said was, all right, leave it to the group of people who are living within that state. Instead of, you know, mandating it for the entire country. Like, that's a bit, you know, dictator-like. Like, come on now. But okay, nobody want to see that part.
You can say to yourself, oh, I screwed up and I'm going to think about it better. Or you can say the people who are complaining are bad and evil people. And the reason they're complaining is not because I screwed up, but because they are screwed up people. And I think that's what, I genuinely think that's what our leadership does. And there are people who are legitimately friends of mine who I think legitimately hate the community that I came from, because the community that I came from refuses to say, oh yeah, we're really glad that based on patriotic sentiment, we volunteered at record levels to enlist in the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, and then you sent us off to a really stupid war. Or we really love that you used to be able to go and raise a family on a single middle-class manufacturing income, but now that's really hard to do because of Kamala Harris's inflation crisis, but also because you guys shipped all the jobs to China, right? The people who refuse to say, thank you for making my life miserable, are they represent an opposition.
I like to call them blue MAGA. That's what I like to call them. Like, you know how they call us MAGA this, MAGA that. And I'm just like, yeah, well, y'all blue MAGA. Like, you know, in my eyes, MAGA are the guys who don't believe that Trump can do anything wrong, no bad policies, everything he says is golden. And then there's blue MAGA who believes that, you know, Biden and Kamala can do nothing wrong and everything they do is golden. And it's weird because on that side of Blue MAGA, y'all got some crazy things being told to y'all. And y'all refuse to do the deeper research or, well, truly understand statistics to honestly back up y'all claims. Like, trust me, I had somebody in here trying to convince me that immigrants commit less crimes than Americans, than U.S. citizens. And I'm just like, well, what are the numbers?
In a rebellion against our failed leadership class. And if our leadership class was healthy, they would say, oh, we must have screwed up. But because they can't do that, they've decided to hate the people of their own country.
A lot of people seem to have been reaching the same conclusion recently, which is that being a little healthier, being spiritually grounded, eating right, paying attention to nature, all of those really matter.
Bring an analysis
I know I'm black, but I kind of like that Tucker Carlson like background music with the banjo and all that. I kind of be jigging to it a little bit. But back
deep
to the
and
show.
true from any of them. And I'm also struck by the fact that I know most of the Republicans in the Senate, maybe one or two exceptions, I can't imagine any of them saying 90% of what you just said, and yet you were on the ticket with Donald Trump. So that makes me think that the Republican Party is actually changing this time. Do you think that's true?
I mean, I absolutely do. And I think there's always going to be this kind of effort from the old guard establishment to try to return us to the old ways, the old broken ways. So it's not like a war that's totally over, but I do think that we're currently winning. And look, I have to give a ton of credit to my running mate, the guy at the top of the ticket, Donald J. Trump, because And you know this, and probably a lot of you in the audience know this, like I was a Trump critic back in 2016. And it's funny when Biden was still running and all of these journalists trying to like confuse how obviously unfit Biden was to serve in the Oval Office, they'd be like, well, Biden's really old, but you know, Trump isn't a spring chicken anymore either. And when people would say that, I'd be like, guys, Donald Trump remembers a tweet that I sent on September 3rd, 2015. He remembers the time and he remembers exactly what I said to the word. Like this guy's memory is as sharp as a tack. In fact, I wish that it wasn't because my life would be a lot easier, but these are not two 70-year-old people who are running for president who are in the same mental condition. One clearly has the energy to do the job and one clearly doesn't. And I've seen this now, having been in the belly of the beast for all of 2 years, but I really wish that I had been on board earlier, because what Trump dealt with in 2016, it cannot be overstated. And I'm talking about like friends of yours, people he had been friends with for 30 years, calling him and attacking him or going on national television and lying about him. When you challenge this...
Man, look, bro, and this gets egregious about what the lying that they do. They do lying on Trump. Boy, they lie to you about the economy, unemployment rate, crime statistics. Bro, like I said, bro, I was literally on here last night debating with people going like, there's no way you can run a fair study saying that, oh, who commit more crimes, immigrants or U.S. citizens? And when they came out with the 3 times that immigrants are less likely to commit crime, I was like, that's BS. You can't compare. There's nowhere in America where you can find an even immigration population to a U.S. citizen population to even run the test and it not be skewed. Like, but for some reason, people don't understand sample sizes or the t-tests and how both the ends got to be a little bit equal or at least come out to 1. But, you know, a lot of people don't understand that.
Ossified, broken ruling class in this country, there is hell to pay for it. And I've got just a little bit of the taste of it. I think Donald Trump has gotten 100 times worse than I have. And obviously, you know, he almost got literally killed just 7 weeks ago and then again like 3 days ago. But Trump, if he hadn't won the primary and if he hadn't won the general election, the Republican Party would be broken. He fixed it and actually created an opportunity for us to build something that's durable and that can work for the long haul. And I think, so I think I was his first endorser in the United States Senate, and like all of my political advisors are like, why are you doing this? It's way too early in the primary. And it's because, having not been on board in 2016, I realized that the 2024 primary would really be this sort of, fundamentally, no matter who challenged him, and there were a lot of good people fundamentally that challenged him, it would ultimately come down to the old guard versus the pro-worker, pro-America party. And I just knew that's how the dividing lines would ultimately shake out, because the old guard, because a lot of them knew Donald Trump in business, because a lot of them know that he knows what they're up to, they hate him more than almost anybody. And they hate him because he does actually fight for the American people, and he does actually care about the citizens of his own country. And you can, look, one thing I'll say about President Trump that is genuinely unique is, look, he obviously is incredibly successful and incredibly wealthy. Like, nobody's gonna ever pretend that Donald Trump is a working class person, at least now in his life. But Trump actually really likes the people that he leads. And that includes, by the way, that includes, by the way, the people who didn't vote for him. He still really likes those people. And that is, I think, what is very different about President Trump versus, frankly, most of America's leadership, is when the cameras are off and they don't think anybody's listening, they talk about how much they think their own citizens are dumb, or, well, yeah, the public thinks this because the public doesn't understand economics. Or, well, if the public was just smarter, they would realize how smart our, Kamala Harris is for wanting to like destroy Social Security and Medicare for illegal immigration, right? They actually think that their own people are stupid and they don't like them. But Donald Trump actually likes people, and I think it's one of the secrets to his success as a political candidate.
Well, watching him order at McDonald's is like one of the most amazing things ever.
It's hysterical.
It's impossible to imagine Carmela, or whatever she's calling herself, Harris, like, talk to the lady behind the counter about the differences in quality and weight and price between the Quarter Pounder and the Big Mac. And he has such strong feelings about it. I mean, he's really thought about it a lot.
Well, and again, this goes to his leadership style.
Yeah, that's crazy. Trump would step out to the people, go visit dead soldiers' graves that he didn't send in. He's not the one who hit the evacuation order on Afghanistan. He didn't, recklessly pull out. It wasn't his orders that got them people, maimed and killed, but he still went to the funeral. He still pulled up, showed up, and been like, look, man, sorry about what's going on. Did Biden do that even though it was under his order? No. Did Kamala do that even though, she's supposed to be stepping up for Biden? No. But y'all want to act like, they care about veterans. And then every time somebody brings that up, they want to give you that lie of, oh, well, he called them suckers and all that good stuff. I'm like, no, he never said that. But, hey, if you take away that from Donald Trump, then I ain't gonna lie, whatever y'all done is way more egregious. Actually, I'd rather Trump. I'd rather it be true that Trump called them suckers than an actual sitting president not going to visit the graves of fallen soldiers.
Donald Trump actually really cares of what people think.
Yeah.
So he has absolutely thought to himself, what is the better value between the Quarter Pounder and the Big Mac? And he actually wants to know what the people who work there think about this question. And by the way, like, I have very strong views about this. Like, obviously the Quarter Pounder is a better deal. Right?
That's absurd. Without secret sauce, it's not even worth going there. But whatever. I mean, honest people disagree. Marlboro Winston.
You've allowed yourself to.
Guys, shout out to my Ohioans, man. I'm based in Columbus, man. I appreciate the Ohioan support, man. And make sure y'all like the video, man. Come on. Appreciate the support. 3 dots up there, man. We got a lit live for y'all. Trust me, it's going to be a fun one.
Be manipulated by the elites. The secret sauce is not the thing that matters. It's the amount of meat. You get way more meat with a Quarter Pounder. And it's obviously, again, but look, the point is, okay, so let me give you an example of this. So the Saturday morning that President Trump was shot, I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but I was down in Mar-a-Lago for the first time talking about becoming his vice presidential nominee. And it was kind of these crazy things because all these reporters would stick microphones in my face and say, you're clearly on the short list, and have you talked to President Trump about it? And I'd say, no, I haven't. In fact, I don't even know if I'm actually on the short list because I've never spoken with him. So the Saturday morning, I'm in Mar-a-Lago, we're talking about the VP thing, and he's like, I like to talk to everybody about who should be the VP. I spent about 30 minutes talking to the gardener at Mar-a-Lago about who he thought should be the vice presidential nominee. And I'm sitting there, sweating bullets like, well, sir, what did the gardener at Mar-a-Lago have to say about who should be the VP? Because this is a question that actually really impacts my life. So,
do you know the gardener, or is it just random?
No, but again, he actually likes to know what people think about things. That's one of his secrets of success as a political leader. So anyway, he goes to, Pennsylvania. He doesn't tell me that it's me. He says that it's probably going to be you. I'm like, oh, thanks. That makes me feel great. I'm totally going to sleep great tonight, knowing it's probably going to be me. He flies to Bucks County, Pennsylvania, of course, is nearly assassinated. God bless you guys.
What's good, Planet?
And he, then he makes the decision, I think, the next day, or maybe even Monday morning. I don't know, right? I don't know when he actually finally made the decision. Probably was just Monday morning, now that I think about it. You probably know better than I do. Anyway, the point is, I actually think that if you care about the people that you represent and the people that you lead, you should want to know what they think about an issue. And whatever disagreements you might have with President Trump, he genuinely cares about what people think about an issue, and it's why I think he's better plugged into what the electorate thinks than most political candidates.
I think that's right. The switch up, the disappearance of the president of the United States. Biden is still president technically, correct?
I don't know.
I don't either, and I really don't know. I don't know what happened to him. He was pretty famous at one point, and then he's just gone. I saw
some clip on social media that Jill Biden was running a cabinet meeting. Was that real, or was that
for sure?
Yep, I was telling everybody, I'm like, bro, Kamala is too late. It's too late for Kamala, okay? She's not the first female president. It is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the first female president. It is too late, black woman. A white woman done beat you to it. Even though she did it covertly, she still did it. Out here doing presidential things, running cabinet meetings and all that. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened. This isn't the first time it's happened where the first lady was damn near setting out orders for, her husband, which would be the president. It ain't the first time, but usually when that happens, it's a very weak moment. It's weak. It's a very weak moment in a president's history. Let's be real.
She's a doctor, JD. Settle down. She's got this, okay? And anyone who hasn't read her dissertation on community colleges in the state of Delaware really should see where the doctorate comes from. She literally has a part of it where she's breaking down the proportion by ethnicity of students, and she's like, it's about 40% Caucasian, about 37% African American, it's another 39% Hispanic, and then another 22% Asian. And I'm like, I'm not good at math, but...
Wait a second.
No, you should read Dr. Jill's dissertation. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she's running the government, just so you know.
I don't think that adds up to 100.
No, it does, 147, actually. But whatever, she's a doctor. But here's my question, and I don't mean to finger the media in this. Sorry. I spent my life in a newsroom. It's vulgar, I know. Kamala Harris went from being, regarded as a buffoon by everybody, including, every Democrat I know. You're constantly reading about, only Montel Williams likes her or whatever. Everyone made fun of her. And then, within 24 hours, she's this historic statesman. How was the media able to pull that off, honestly?
Yeah, a lot of shamelessness. One of the things that we say on the campaign trail, because it's true, is that, we do a lot of interviews. Me and President Trump do a ton of interviews with hostile media, with friendly media, with everybody in the middle, and Kamala Harris doesn't.
That's a banger point. Hostile interviews. Bro, let's be real. JD Vance done carried the whole team on interviews. The man had done 59 interviews, 59. The bro did more interviews than Trump. And, 5 times as more as Kamala. Hot seat interviews, sweet softball interviews, but Kamala, I think she did 9 interviews, all softball interviews, no hot seat, no Fox, no Daily Mail, no No right-leaning publication. None. She can't take it. She can't get that pushback, or she's gonna fall apart. Obviously, we all know this. So it's kind of crazy how everybody says that, oh, Trump's hiding and all that. I mean, bro, nobody in Trump's camp is hiding. JD's out there on the front line. I mean, give it to him more than Trump. And honestly, I'm gonna give it to him. He explains policies better than Trump.
Now, part of the argument that we're trying to make is, to the American people, you shouldn't trust a person who's so terrified of the media that she runs away from them. You can't trust that person in a private meeting with Xi Jinping.
Wrong.
But
you know, so crazy. There's still people saying that she's winning. Now, if you're tuned into Set and Key Media, you watched it last night where Kamala's rally, and this is crazy because this is how I know Kamala supporters don't even watch her rallies, because she said y'all was down. Go look at her rally she did yesterday. She came out going like, yeah, we're down in the polls. I'm admitting it. So y'all don't even listen to her at all either. It's so crazy. I listen to Kamala more than Kamala supporters listen to her.
part of what we've been trying to do too is actually shame the American media, which is totally it's total historical revisionism right before our eyes. I mean, my wife even, who's a totally apolitical person, but right after they did the Kamala switcheroo, she sent me like a bunch of clips of different people and how they spoke about Kamala Harris like 3 months ago and how they speak about Kamala Harris today. And it's totally flipped. And we've been trying to shame the American media into looking themselves in the mirror and asking her some tough questions and actually reporting on her record. And you know what we've learned, Tucker? The American media has no shame.
So like they're here. I can feel their filthy presence.
I can see some of their. I can feel it.
Like you run into them on the road. What do they say?
Is it not?
Well, they'll say in private. Almost all of them will say, yeah, it's really ridiculous. Or in public, they'll say, well, you know, we hope that she'll give us an interview. And it's like, well, but
Look, sweetheart, I got a video up right now in the premiere right now. You can even get off this, go to my premiere video, and I'm listening to Kamala right there and then. Ta-da! Kamala or Conrad Harris.
Democratic process requires that she gives you an interview before people start voting. Like your job, if you have any job, and by the way, to the reporters out there, I know some of you are out there, like your job is to not repeat Kamala Harris propaganda without at least getting a chance to ask her a question about it. And that's what...
Well, but it's really simple. I've been in the media my whole life. I know how it works. If you want